The C8 RS7 is already a pretty epic car with the killer looks of the RS6, but in a more svelte coupe with almost 600 brake horsepower. But now it's evolved into the absolutely jaw-dropping RS7 performance. Perhaps not jaw-dropping in terms of what's changed in the looks, but under the skin in terms of emotion, it's almost doubled in its value to the Audi customer. And I can't wait to show you every single bit of it today. They've done quite a bit in terms of engine, dynamics and other interesting things. There's some new trims and colors available as well, which are really cool, but it's more about what this car makes you feel when you push the start button, when you drive it, the exhaust note. It's a special, special thing. I can't wait to show you. Let's dive in today and check out this brand new RS7 performance. Today's episode of RBR is once again sponsored by NordVPN, returning sponsor. A VPN client is so important these days to have on every single one of your devices. I use it hugely when I go abroad, especially because I want to keep my data safe. I want to be private when I'm browsing. I want to keep my credit card information safe. For example, someone could set up a malicious Wi-Fi point. I would have no idea. I would access it because I'm abroad. I could be doing transactions because I'm away from home, and my data, my credit card information could go in an instant. Similarly, if I want to access my library of content from either Netflix or Disney Plus, etc. while I'm abroad, I can set it back to the UK and still access my stuff, or set it to another country and access different content, which is brilliant. It's really simple to turn on, just one click and that's it. You're protected. You can leave auto protect on as well, and it'll protect you from cookies and other malicious malware, which is great. And you can even have it on Android TV, and again, that's going to help you with content. The great thing is, you get a deal, an exclusive deal on the link below, nord.com/RBR, but you also get a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not happy, but you must try it. It's one of these things that in this day and age, you absolutely have to have. Don't go without a VPN client. It's just going to make your browsing that much safer. Huge thanks to you guys for supporting our regular sponsors and to Nord for sponsoring this episode. Now, back to the car. Now, the name RS7 is actually quite a young one. It only first came to be in the last generation, which was the C7. And that was also a really epic car. It took the killer looks of the then RS6 and brought them into that coupe four-door that was all the rage at the time, and created a bespoke body for the RS7 with a wide front, wide rear, 560 horsepower going to the Quattro system. This version actually also had a performance version of the RS7 with an additional 45 PS, more torque, etc. as a more limited car. So, but this was only last generation. It's not got a long storied history like the RS6, for example. But when we came to the newer generation, C8, the thing that really stood out for me was how Audi Sport really tripled down on the sport design language, especially versus rivals. Most rivals just design from A-pillar onwards and make, bigger wheels and a bigger front end, etc. Audi Sport did not do that. They took the same formula that made the RS6 so legendary and basically just left the boot, the front door and the rear hatchback untouched versus the normal A7. Everything else unique to RS7. And it really is much bigger and wide. It looks as wide as from what you see. It's a 1.6 inch wider front end. We've got unique front arches, unique rear arches and rear doors. We've got matching side sills which are as wide, and it just makes the whole thing look incredible in its look. The 592 brake horsepower worth of power came from the trusty 4-litre twin-turbo V8 sitting under the hood, and all of that went to an 8-speed torque converter and your traditional Quattro system. So a really great car in itself, but now of course it has evolved massively into this absolutely gorgeous RS7 performance version. And this is much like the competition that we tried in the RS4 and the RS5. One word really drove Audi when it came to the performance, and that word was emotion. They're keen to really triple the emotion in this car, and they're doing it by sound, they're doing it with dynamics, and they're doing it with power. First, engine update. They've replaced the turbos and put bigger turbos in this. These have a larger boost pressure going from 2.4 to 2.6 bar. That allows the engine now to give 30 PS more and 50 Newton meters more. So we wind up at 630 PS and 850 Newton meters and an alleged quicker 0 to 60, which of course we're going to try very, very shortly and see how that does. Then that goes to our 8-speed talking about again, but now they have changed the software within this to have quicker shifting and more emotional shifting. Again, that's a claim that we're going to have to test on the road later on. And of course it all goes to our Quattro system, but we have had a slight change within our differential here. We actually have a smaller and more compact, lightweight differential that has been installed into this that now allows for better handling dynamics in terms of steering feel, and it also helps reduce that feeling of understeer that these cars are sometimes accused of. In terms of the power split in the Quattro, it's basically the exact same as the normal RS7. So you get a maximum of 85% power going to the rear and a maximum of 70% going to the front. It's not fully variable like the rivals like E63 and M5, but that's not the be all and end all at this stage. The other side that was really important for Emotion was sound and weight. In terms of sound, they've removed sound insulation from your engine bay, your interior and your rear, up to 8 kgs worth. And forgetting the weight saving, this is really going to help in terms of bringing more of that V8 noise into the car. Again, we experienced this with RS4 and RS5 comp and it was absolutely amazing. I can't wait to experience that in the V8. And there's more done in terms of weight saving as well. Our wheels are newly forged wheels which are 5 kg lighter per wheel, giving a total saving of 20 kg. They are more open as well, so allow for better brake cooling. And we've got specially designed tyres from Conti here, Sport Contact 7, which in terms of understeer, again, help the car, but also reduce the braking distance up to 2 meters. In addition to this, you can also get an RS Dynamics Plus package, which gives you a top speed unlock, but then gives you the ceramic brake option, either finished in blue, red, or in the grey. And they actually look fantastic in the blue, as you can see close up. Really big disc, 440 on the front and 370 on our rear discs, and they really are a sight to behold. But more than just the look, they save 34 kg versus the standard steel brakes, which again, unsprung mass reduction is great for handling. Sadly today, we have the steel brake version on our car, but that's maybe a good thing because I can tell you what the standard RS7 performance is like. Similarly, in terms of the suspension, we've also got the standard air suspension setup for this. So that's good. I'm kind of happy that we have the base version, which most people will end up getting. Now, in terms of the way this thing looks, there's only a few changes because let's face it, it was already an amazing looking car. You've seen the wheel change. In terms of the trims on the outside of the car, it comes standard first in this matte grey color. And you'll find it all over the front of the car with those samurai blades within our front bumper. You'll find it on our side sills as well, which are extended on the rear bumper as well, along the exhausts, and finally on your wing mirrors as well. As an alternate, you can get black and carbon, as we have on our Nardo grey car here. And I don't think this looks as good. I actually really like the matte version, and I really like the matte blue. And in fact, in terms of individual colors, there are up to 16 standard colors that you can get now, which is an increase from what we had before. And do remember, all of the changes I mentioned today also apply to the RS6 Performance, which we will be driving soon, but on an extended drive in the UK. Now, all of this formula, very similar to what we found in RS5 and RS4 competition, which we absolutely loved when we drove them. So much more emotion. So I'm hoping from this V8 beast, it's going to be even better than that. Now guys, there are some changes and some new options available on the interior of the Performance. I want to show you what those are, and then we're going to waste no time and see just how emotional the new Performance is. Quick note before we head inside, of course, RS7 being a hatchback, that's part of the charm of this particular four-door coupe. Much like AMG's GT63S, which is a much more expensive car, you also get the benefit of this. And of course, load area in these type of coupe hatchbacks is amazing in terms of your apertures. These load elements are actually removable, so you can actually get rid of this. You can get rid of this one as well. Up on our rear windscreen is very easy just to pop off. And you might actually want to do that to get a bit more exhaust sound. I've found if you get rid of these, you hear a bit more coming out from our lovely pipes in the back. We've got luggage net here, a few more cubby holes here on the side, and it's all very well lit, etc. in the back, a few luggage clips. So yeah, a really nice and spacious boot for a 4-door performance coupe. Now let's head inside our RS7 Performance, where there's a few changes. Now all of this is going to look really familiar to you if you're used to the normal RS6 and RS7, because essentially it is exactly the same, including your nice intro sound, which is great. But this is of course the RS7. You do get a new trim available in this car, which is in the other car that we've been filming, which is a lovely blue trim in addition to the red that's in this car and the grey that's also available. Now let's head into the other car where I can show you the details up close. Now in our blue car, you'll be able to see that new colorway that they've introduced. So you've got the blue stitching that comes everywhere, which is, it's on our door cards. We've got it on the mats below, across our center console as well. And of course, all over our seats, which has been really nicely trimmed, both on the front with the hexagonal patterns and the perforation, and on our rear as well. So all of that looks really good. Even better than that though is the carbon fiber, the inlaid blue within the sea of carbon on here. And there's lots of carbon in the RS7, and that looks awesome. You also find little bits like on the gears, like it's everywhere, and it's really nice, and it kind of sets the performance apart. And I think with the seat belts as well, that just makes for a really nice finish in the end. So this, in my opinion, is the one to go for if you're going for a performance. It's going to set it apart a little bit versus your standard RS7, and yeah, particularly with this paint shade outside. Within this car, you have the exact same design, but with the traditional Audi red, and it still looks really, really good. It's just not a new color. Instead of the carbon, for example, we have Dynamica used over the top of our dashboard here and within here, and it's not a bad look. It's just not as special as having that lovely blue carbon fiber, which was amazing. Apart from that, the interior, as you know from the past with RS, etc., so lovely. I'm still not a massive fan of just having touch screens, but I do like the fact that the touch points are big in here. The rear is trimmed really nicely as well. Of course, you haven't got the same space as your RS6 Avant, but it's a nice spacious 3-seat bench on the rear. You've got decent headroom as well, so your passengers will be quite happy in the back of the RS7 Performance as well. The rest of it all comes down to the experience, and part of that experience is turning this baby on. Now, Audi Sport have made the performance versions have a more exciting exhaust depending on the drive mode. So if we knock this car into RS2 mode, which we are in now, and then I turn the car on, we will get a more exciting startup noise. And it sounds absolutely brilliant, doesn't it? Listen to that. Right, now let's set off. The absolutely key thing with this car was emotion. They had to inject more because they really did take the feedback. I was talking to the engineers and they took the feedback to heart that the previous RS6 and RS7 just did not have that hit of emotion, particularly versus the rivals at the time. So they've injected even more by removing the insulation, and let's see now, first 100 yards. V8 rumble sounds so good. Listen to that, I'm in S dynamic and I'm getting so much more than we used to out of the previous cars. This is the first bit, and it's so important. In fact, when I did my long-term review of the RS6 recently, which is a non-performance one, I did come back and say, in the current market versus the current E63, etc., the RS6 probably sounds a bit better. This one builds upon that in the performance versions where I can hear even more of that lovely V8. And you get way more pops and bangs, way more than you do in the standard RS6 and RS7. Like, that was actually one bugbear I had with those cars, that while the V8 rumble and the revs were great, there was a lot less in terms of pops and bangs and being able to play that exhaust, you know, like a musical instrument. Just coming off the throttle with your foot, getting a few bangs, etc. It's lovely, and it adds that hit of emotion that you really want in a special car. I really think Audi should standardize or make this insulation removal thing an option within their options list just for the standard cars, like, you know, some kind of emotion plus sound experience or something. Remove that 8 kg worth of insulation and just get that hit of emotion immediately. All of us so precious over our V8s now, aren't we? Because we're losing them in many manufacturers going into the future. It's so nice to have this in this car. Apparently the facelift hopefully will maintain it as well, which would be great. Now, all of that was with the exhaust on automatic. If we put the exhaust into present, which is basically always open, then the exhaust note changes. And you hear even more of it because the valves are always open. So now I've set my RS1 mode to have everything on the sportiest setting. Let's see what this car is like. First of all, the engine. The RS6 and RS7 were never slow. So predictably, this feels mega fast, but I think it's more the extra sound that you get that gives you the feeling that you are going even faster. But it's nice to be able to say that now it's got more power than its rivals, whereas before it was always kind of lagging behind with, you know, 10-20 horsepower less. Now it's got more. And you know what? Sometimes bragging rights count. What's more interesting here is our dynamics. That's what we really want to sharpen up and improve a little bit. And immediately in steering, you can feel that it's a little bit keener on the front end. It's still not absolutely perfect, but it's a big improvement in terms of getting a bit of that feedback, a bit of that feeling of pointing the nose in a bit quicker than you were before, which is nice. And the sound is just, oh, fantastic. Definitely that feeling of turning better. Grip out of the corner, incredible. Got some nice twisty roads through the forest here. It just feels like you're driving a much more exciting car, a car that really wants to please the driver. And not just in terms of power and sound, but adding a bit of that dynamism that you might think was missing beforehand. I've definitely got more confidence doing this than I would have had previously in the normal RS6. The turn-in is just better. We've got a bit of assistance with our active rear steering as well, which is nice. It's just enough to shorten the wheelbase and make these type of roads a bit easier. Grip is immense, of course, from our Conti's. Conti's interesting, actually. Definitely, I'm braking earlier. And kind of like an RS4 and RS5, I'm also having to rejig my brain because I'm braking too early. The tyres have had a really positive impact on this, actually. So you kind of have to reprogram your brain that, look, don't be afraid, you can actually brake into this corner quite a bit later and then power out. Okay guys, now is as good a time as any to check our launch control out. We are able to measure that within Audi's system here, which is great as well. So we're going to do that. I'm going to measure the 0 to 100 kms. Let's see what this can do. We have to shift this first into RS2 mode. And now, let's give it a launch. See the traffic light system of launch control. There we go. Oh, that is quick. And it has smashed a 0 to 60 time of 3.2 seconds as measured here. Or rather, I should say 0 to 100 or 0 to 62. That's damn impressive. That's very quick. The grip was immense. Zero delay from the Quattro system, as I found with the RS6 in the rain as well. But here, that is matching its rivals exactly. E63S doing the same time as well. M5 giving us the same time. But A, it felt so rapid, and B, having the traffic light system within our MMI here, well, that was really cool. The car's in manual mode now, and I must say, the gear changes so much quicker, so much quicker. Go back and check my normal RS6 video. You'll see how much quicker the gear changes are happening in the performance. Just like with the RS4 and the RS5 competition, I really feel like Audi Sport are starting to get into their stride with these cars now. The shift time's not feeling dissimilar to like a newer car like my M3 Touring at all. Very similar, of course. that's a torque converter as well. It's actually very enjoyable because the upshifts are quite dramatic. And again, that's that layer of emotion that they've added into this in order to make the whole experience, you know, that much more enjoyable. Downshifts historically always slow, but now instantaneous almost, and a nice emotional upshift. It may seem to you that I'm overly excited about this car, particularly with regards to the emotion, and that's absolutely the case. I love V8 performance cars, first and foremost, like the good dailies. And I have this great love for the RS6, particularly having lived with it recently, and to experience the RS7 that's actually fixed those little niggles, because the two things that I just couldn't get over was how the emotion could just be better, and you're almost screaming for something aftermarket, and then the dynamics eventually, you know, at the limit starting to bother you. I'm not going to sit here and say that the understeer has been erased because of the changes, you know, to the diff or the tyres that we have. That's not the case, but the little improvements that we have on the steering, which was my main bugbear, and the huge improvements on emotion just make a big difference. I mean, listen to that. It's so good. And how can you not love that every day? And when you compare that to like M5 competition, you compare that to my E63 sounds shite compared to them. Sorry, it just does. Okay, you drive the GT63E Performance, which is, you know, got 800 plus brake horsepower. That drives nothing as nicely as this does, because this is so much lighter. And I must say, the looks of the RS7 have grown on me to the point that I'm kind of like, do I prefer this or do I prefer the RS6? And I'm a wagon man, as you guys know. I just think the way that the rear looks on this is absolutely stupendous. Is it a little harsher? I would say definitely so in the suspension, even with the standard one. But I don't care. When you buy an RS7 Performance, you are expecting the best that they have to offer dynamically and emotionally. And if it's a little bit stiff, frankly, it makes the whole experience a bit more convincing. The RS7 Performance stands out as a hero in a world that's increasingly less emotional, increasingly more hybridized and electrified. This car is none of those things. And because of that, I genuinely do love it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this full review of the RS7 Performance. If you have, please do support the channel, like and subscribe to RBR, and I'll see you guys next time.